Monday. Welcome back to another weekly reading vlog. I have to get a lot of reading done this week because I just posted my July TBR and that's a lot of books. This week I work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 to 3, I believe. So that's not too much of a time commitment. So I do have Monday, Friday, Saturday to really get some quality reading in. Obviously, I'm going to be trying to read Tuesday through Thursday as well. Work has just really not been conducive to quality reading, at least going back to work is. So I woke up in a really good mood today and I wasn't expecting it. And it was just a bunch of little things that just was really nice. First of all, my July TBR went live today and you guys are being so sweet on it. It's one of like the best performing videos that I've had in a while in terms of comments and like interaction, and that's one of my favorite parts of YouTube. So that made me really happy. And then I went on Animal Crossing and I have a 5-star island because I just got like my first, what are they, Lily of the Valleys, which is the highest accomplishment that you can get in terms of island ratings if you don't play Animal Crossing. So that was really exciting. I've been trying to get that for a while now and I finally did today. I've been reading The House in the Cerulean Sea as my audiobook. I probably should actually finish that today. I don't really have much to say about it. The writing is absolutely flawless, and same with the characters. They all feel like real fleshed out characters, and it does go over like a lot of themes that I enjoy in terms of people with supernatural abilities. For example, I love X-Men comics. I love all of the kind of themes that are really explored, especially in X-Men comics and X-Men, like the movies and stuff like that, about governments controlling, and about how, like, you know, in today's world, people would not just see superheroes and be happy that they're there and kind of celebrate them like we do to our fictional superheroes. They would be more, you know, testing them in government agencies and putting restrictions on them, and just all of those discussions that X-Men really has. I absolutely love. I really love Magneto as a character. He was like one of the blueprints for me loving morally gray slash villains that aren't really villains. They just have like really good ideas that they're doing in such a bad way. So if you don't know what The House in the Cerulean Sea is about, it's about our Earth, but an Earth where there are magical creatures and kids with powers. There is a government agency that oversees them, and honestly, I don't know if it's on our Earth or not, but it feels very much like our Earth, except that the kids have powers. So I don't know if it's supposed to be set on our Earth or not, but one of the people that works at the agency is a man who's kind of like on the lower totem pole, but he goes to houses and orphanages and kind of sees if these children are threats to society or not. And he goes to this one orphanage, which is the House in the Cerulean Sea, and he meets the caretaker, and they kind of start to have a little slow burn romance there, but he's really there because one of the children is the Antichrist. He's the son of Satan, and this kid is 6 years old, but he does have those powers, and a lot of other kids in the orphanage also have really stereotypically destructive and evil-coded powers, and just kind of exploring, well, are these children, are nature or nurture? Are they really a threat? Do we really need to take out a 6-year-old because he could grow up? It's like, you know, the whole killing Hitler's baby question, right? I mean, a little bit different than that, but this kid is supposed to be the Antichrist. So do you leave him as a 6-year-old be? Can you change his personality and change his character so that he's good, or is he just a lost cause even as a 6-year-old? So I like that, but all those discussions about like the nature versus nurture and kind of exploring, oh, these mutants, I'll use an X-Men term for lack of a better one, aren't what we think they are. We just have prejudices towards them. I feel like has been done better and more nuanced in terms of other literature and books that I've read, and I don't really know. I want to say it's adult fiction. It's hard to narrow down who the demographic for this book is, right? Because the main character, he is actually like in his 40s, which I really enjoyed at the beginning because I don't think you really get that in fantasy in terms of your hero or protagonist. And so he and his love interest are both in like their mid-40s. So you'd think it would be adult because you are following, it's one point of view, it's just the main character. But it reads a lot younger. It reads like it would appeal to almost a middle grade because most of the characters are children and they are written extremely well. They do feel like children. So I don't really know what the target audience for this book is. The topics that are discussed and the things that I would like to see in this book, it's definitely not my favorite because, like I said, I love those tropes, but I prefer them to be like a little darker and grittier, where this is very much I feel like it's gonna end happy. I could totally be wrong, but it does feel like you have these discussions, but at the whole, it's like a cutesy romance. I'll listen to it today when I'm doing like some laundry or some dishes, something like that. I should be able to get that done. And then I am reading for my physical book this week, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I'm not far in it at all because I've been reading physically just before I go to bed. And usually by that point in the night, I'm just kind of ready to go to bed after about 10 pages. So I am really only on page 40-ish. It's funny because Throne of Glass is one of those books that I see everywhere, but I haven't actually seen a lot of plot synopsises for. And I have heard that the first book has kind of its own plot and then it expands into something bigger. And so this main character, Selena, she is an assassin and she has been a slave because she was captured, but then she goes to the king's palace to enter into a competition, kind of like sort of a Hunger Games-esque competition. But the winner of the competition gets to be the king's royal assassin, and she can win her freedom that way, which is why she agrees to do it, even though the king's kind of a tyrant. The book is interesting because I definitely see, again, I'm not that far into it, but the only other book that I've read by Sarah J. Maas is House of Earth and Blood. And I mean this only as like a compliment because I think it shows a lot of growth, but the writing style between Throne of Glass and House of Earth and Blood are almost like a night and day difference in how much better the House of Earth and Blood is at setting up a fantasy world, setting up characters, introducing topics. And I know a lot of people thought that one was very much info dumpy, which sometimes I feel like in terms of fantasy, you almost need to understand what's going on in the world. I mean, look at J.R.R. Tolkien and how he writes, but just the difference between that and then the writing in this book, which I believe was her debut, is night and day. And of course, this one also is middle grade, not middle grade. This one, of course, is YA, and House of Earth and Blood is adult. So that also plays into it, I'm sure. But I can definitely see from the writing it's the same person. I think it's really cool seeing how much this author has obviously honed in her writing style and honed in her voice just based on these two books. That being said, this one definitely reads a little young, and I probably should have juxtaposed this one or House in the Cerulean Sea with one of my adult books on my TBR, just because everything that I'm reading right now is a little bit on the light side and a little bit on the younger side and what I normally like to read. So definitely when I finish House in the Cerulean Sea, I'm going to be picking up probably one of my horror books, something a little bit darker, grittier, just something a little bit darker in tone and more adult written in tone. Not that there's anything wrong, but just so I can get a little bit of variety on my TBR. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints about this one. I really can't complain, I feel like, because I'm only on page 50 or so in this book. So there's nothing really much to be said. The chapters are really short. I'm not used to that. Like, the chapters are all 2 to 3 pages long, which is crazy. But wow, this opening update was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But those are the books I'm reading right now. I have a very laid back day today. My partner's working, so it's just me and the dog. Need to do some dishes, need to work out. I have an anticipated releases video that I need to at least upload the footage and edit it because I'm trying to have that uploaded by Thursday. And then other than that, it's just really reading and writing for Nanowrimo. I am so far behind on that. So let's talk about that really fast. Nanowrimo has kind of been a disaster for me this year because in part I had an idea and I was writing it the first day and it was going pretty well, but then I realized some ideas I feel like you can just sit down and start writing and not know where it's leading. The idea that I had really needed some more structure and for me to plan out what I was doing with it before. Like, it's not a story you can just dive into. So actually my third day, because July 2nd I just had a bad day. I didn't write at all. I didn't do much of anything at all. But July 3rd I started on a different project, so I was already like 2 days behind. And I'm really liking this project. It's actually an idea that I've had for a long time, but I got some new inspiration for how to make certain plot points actually work. So I'm doing that one right now. So I'm far behind, but the writing itself is going really well. So I'm trying to focus on that because I only have about 3,000 words. But that being said, I have been writing more than I have in the past couple of months. I think I fell into a trap, like I feel like a lot of other creatives might, where it's like, okay, I have all this free time. It's time to create. It's time to sit down and write or paint or, you know, do whatever your craft is. And that just hasn't been the case. It's been really hard to write. Nanowrimo has been kind of bad because I keep seeing how far behind I am, and that's stressful. So I do need to do that as well. And then all the rest I need to do is read. So that's this morning's update. I will check back in with you guys a little bit later. It's like 7 o'clock and I just realized that I haven't checked in and vlogged today. Yeah, not a lot has happened. That's why I haven't vlogged. There's really not much to say other than the fact that people continue to think that this pandemic's over and it's not. So work is a very stressful place to be at the moment. But luckily with the position that I am in currently, I actually don't spend a lot of time interacting with customers, which is really nice because that is something that gives me a lot of anxiety at the moment, is interacting with people who really don't care about this whole wearing masks, social distancing, just being like kind and considerate people at the moment. So the added bonus is that I also have a lot of audiobook reading time at work. At least I did today. That was wonderful. I finished The House in the Cerulean Sea and I enjoyed this one. I don't think that I was probably the target audience. There's not a lot that I want to add to what I had talked about yesterday, other than the fact that I would say in terms of plot, kind of going into it, reading the back of the book or just reading up upon it on Goodreads, you can guess where it's going. I don't want to say predictable in a bad way. I honestly think this might be a very perfect book to read right now because it was very sweet. It was very wholesome. It talked about some deeper issues, but in a very light way where, I mean, you weren't gonna get depressed reading this book. You're not gonna get sad, even though maybe some like sad things are touched upon. It's just a very sweet and touching book. Perhaps this is a bit of a spoiler for it, but I don't think it is. I just think in terms of just general tone, it does end well. And I would say this is a very character-driven book. There is a singular plot structure that is in place that kind of takes place throughout the book, but in terms of like high stakes, you kind of know where it's going, and it's really just about the character's journey of one mindset to another mindset and exploring the different character relationships, which was really nice. I do believe that this is a standalone fantasy at the moment, but the author definitely could write more in this world. I never found out where this was supposed to take place because it seems like it's in our world, and there are references to different singers that are in our world, like Buddy Holly and Elvis, and those artists were also dead, which obviously gives you kind of a range of dates to go off of. But when they were listening to the music, it was on records, and there wasn't any like cell phones or technology like that, so I don't know if this was supposed to be in our world or not. I kind of think of it almost as a His Dark Materials sort of parallel universe things, where pretty much everything happened like the way our world did, but just kind of evolved in a different way. So it's the only book that I've completed so far this month, which I need to get a move on. I've been reading Throne of Glass. I'm about halfway through that one. I'm enjoying it. There's not much to say. It is very much a YA fantasy, and truthfully at the moment it does quite feel like a standalone, or it could have been a standalone. I'm sure there are other things that are going to happen to make it a big and sprawling series, but I definitely see why a lot of people say that the first plot is different than the plot of the rest of the books, because it does feel like a self-contained story at the moment. Not that I'm complaining, and I think my biggest complaint with that one would probably have to be that there's like all this romantic tension between Selena and Dorian and Kale, which I want to pronounce that differently, but the internet tells me it's Kale. So there's like, it's not a love triangle because nothing has happened between the three of them, but at least on Dorian and Kale's part, there's so much yearning and it's very instantaneous. It's pretty much started from the beginning where they picked Selena up. Technically, it would be enemies to lovers since Selena is a slave and she's trying to win back her freedom and she was fighting against the crown that they both uphold. And I'm grateful that nothing romantic has happened yet. That's why I was very nervous going into this one. I feel like YA fantasies, or at least YA fantasy books, just the whole system kind of pushes authors to write romance in them because I guess everyone thinks that it would be a more marketable book. And I don't mind romance in fantasy if it's done well and if it's not like the main point of a fantasy book. Because there are certainly books where it's a romance set in a fantasy setting and that's great. I'm not interested in it, but there is definitely a market for it. But I feel like YA, it's just, they get, I don't know if it's like a publishing thing or if it's just like society pressure, but I just feel like YA fantasy tends to really push romances, and they really tend to push romances fast. There's not really any sort of slow burn there, so I'm glad that nothing has happened yet. It's just like a bunch of yearning, which is still a little strange and was very instantaneous. They both saw Selena, she's a very beautiful woman, and they're kind of just basing it off of that since neither of them admittedly know anything about her. They just think she's beautiful and mysterious and that's why they're into her. So that's a little annoying to read about. But yeah, I'm hoping to finish that one tonight too so I can pick up, I need to find another audiobook and then I need to find another physical book. I really love Scribd, but I've noticed for some reason, and work is the only place where I've noticed this happen. I don't have Wi-Fi at work, so I am using data or things that I've downloaded on my phone when I'm at work. I've noticed exclusively at work if I'm using Scribd on an audiobook title that I've downloaded, so technically it should already be on my phone. Even when it's a downloaded audiobook title, it drains my battery like nobody's business. Like I finished The House in the Cerulean Sea on Scribd today at work and there was only 10 minutes left and my phone battery went down 5% in those last 10 minutes, which is not sustainable for a 6-hour-long shift. So I'm either going to have to only listen to audiobooks that I own, which I only have one and that's Nevernight on Libro FM, or use my library audiobooks. So I'm gonna have to kind of maneuver that and see which ones I want to do and then pick up a physical book as well. Yeah, so that's it for this update. I will check back in with you guys a little bit later. Guys, happy Thursday. I did not update at all yesterday because I just was not feeling too well, but today's a new day. I have the day off. I have been feeling slightly better. Yesterday was just a little bit of a bad mental health day, but today's a lot better. And I've got to update you guys because I have read a lot since I last updated the vlog. So I did find a new audiobook, maybe. That's Christopher Buehlman's The Suicide Motor Club. I'm like 3 hours into it and I'm gonna give it like another hour and see. I'm probably going to DNF that that one just because I mentioned in my TBR for this month that The Lesser Dead by Christopher Buehlman was one of my most surprising reads of last year. I picked it up on a whim and really enjoyed it, so I thought this would be like the same thing because it is about vampires and it's actually like a newer release than The Lesser Dead. I was giving it a shot and honestly it just doesn't feel like the same author at all. Not saying that that's necessarily like a bad thing, but everything that I really loved and really worked about The Lesser Dead in terms of like unique vampire concepts is just not in this one. Like The Lesser Dead I thought was definitely more like humorous. I mean, it was gritty and there were some gritty moments in there, but it did have like a lighthearted tone. The narrator was kind of making fun of himself. The narrator was a vampire who was, you know, in the hundreds in terms of age, but he was stuck in the body of like a 12-year-old, I think. So there was a lot of humor around that and also exploration of how psychologically kind of damaging that is to be stuck in like a 12-year-old's body and be very much an adult in terms of thinking. So that would kind of suck to be stuck like that forever. This one reads very dark, and obviously, I mean, the title and just the synopsis, I was expecting it to be dark, but almost gruesomely so. Like, if I could take these two books and compare them to movies, I would say The Lesser Dead would be like Cabin in the Woods, still kind of scary, characters are very enjoyable, it has an undertone of humor, but it also deals with dark things, and it's also like a cult classic-y kind of book. The Suicide Motor Club, I would say, is probably more like, we'll say like Saw 4 or something like that. I'm sure there's an audience for it. It is very horrifying. At least this far into it, the characterization isn't the best, and it's definitely more gory than scary, and yeah. And I'm gonna be quite honest, I haven't seen all the Saw movies, so maybe Saw 4 is like the best one of the bunch. I couldn't actually tell you. I've only seen like the first one and the most recent one, but just knowing about that series, and I have no problem with long-standing series. We can even compare it to like a Friday the 13th sequel where, you know, there's nothing new, it's just very gory, it has a market, but I'm not that market. Probably going to be DNFing that one, which is a bummer because I was looking forward to it. But I have read other things that I've actually finished that I really enjoyed. So first of all, the one that I've talked about before, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I finished this one. I enjoyed it. Was it the best book that I've ever read in my life? No, but I thought it was a really good young adult debut fantasy, and I think in particular this one, I'm excited. I am going to be continuing on with the series unless it just gets like worse. I'm interested to see in what happens next, and for this one it definitely kind of felt to me like this would be a good bridging book between middle grade and YA for readers trying to get more into YA, because, you know, it did read a little young at times, and that was weird because this assassin is a slave for being a very ruthless killer, but she was like 16 at the time. So some of the concepts, if you're an adult, don't really make sense, and the characters are crazy young for some of the things that are going on in here. I can see why it's so popular. I think at this point people just like to rag on series. I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. It wasn't the best fantasy I've ever read by any means. I don't even think the series is probably going to be in my best series of all times, but it was really fun. The romance, the love triangle was a little cliche, and it also just was way too fast. Feelings all the way around I felt like happened way too fast, but I'm more of a slow burn person if I enjoy romance at all. But I enjoyed it, and I definitely see why it's popular, and I definitely have to say that Sarah J. Maas has improved her writing so much between this one and House of Earth and Blood. They're also written for different audiences, so I enjoyed it. I'll be picking up the next book in the series. I don't know when, because it's definitely in that I'm intrigued by the world and the concepts, especially in like the last 100 pages. A lot of things were introduced that would make you want to pick up the next book in the series. However, it's not like I'm going on Barnes & Noble right now and immediately ordering the second book. So it was good. I think my 7th grade sister is really gonna get a kick out of this series. It seems like that would be a really good fit for that type of age, but I thought that was really fun, and I did finish it today, but because I just couldn't concentrate on it yesterday because I was just not feeling well at all. But I enjoyed the reading process of that one. And then yesterday I got this in the mail. I ordered it from Barnes & Noble. It's Witch Volume 1. This was just a wonderful nostalgia trip. This is a middle grade graphic novel series about a group of 5 girls who get gifted the powers of the different elements, and they have to fight to keep otherworldly beings from entering Earth through their dimension. And this holds up. Kind of. It doesn't hold up in the fact that it came out in the early 2000s. So like a lot of technology, a lot of just, you know, the whole culture of things going on definitely feels a little bit dated. There's a plot device in here that relies on floppy disks and printing something off at like a desktop computer, and all the technology in here is very basic, and only one character has a cell phone, and it's like a very big deal because her mom's a single mom and she needs to keep in contact with Will. So I thought that was amusing as well. These girls are all 13 and 14. This was a really fun read. I highly recommend. This was one of my favorite graphic novel series when I was around that age, and I think especially if you're younger, you probably wouldn't enjoy this as much. I'm sure I wouldn't have enjoyed this as much had I not had the nostalgia factor, but this has the same feel to me as Sailor Moon, or even like Avatar: The Last Airbender, with the elemental magic and then the group of girls fighting to save our world from otherworldly forces. So those are the books that I finished. It's been a pretty productive reading week, and it's definitely been a strange reading week. I have noticed I'm really knocking out a lot of my lighter reads sooner in this month rather than later, and I haven't really been enjoying my darkest read of the week so far. So I think I'm going to go with my next physical book. I'm still very much in a fantasy mood after I read 2 middle grade / YA books, and I think that these really helped me because this week has not been the best for me personally, just in terms of mental health. I've been super stressed, so it was nice to de-stress. Even House in the Cerulean Sea, I would say that one is more of YA going into adult. I still think it reads a little bit young, but it was really wonderful as well. But all of those lighthearted reads just really came at a good time for me, but I think I'm finally ready to kind of up the ante, delve into something a little bit darker, and I'm super in a fantasy mood. So I think I'm going to pick up Evan Winter's The Rage of Dragons next. This is a fantasy. This is the first in a fantasy series. I believe it's a trilogy, and I'll read one of the blurbs in here. So The Rage of Dragons launches a stunning and powerful debut epic fantasy series about a world caught in an eternal war and a young man who will become his people's only hope for survival. I have heard nothing but good things about this book. It is like a war-centric sort of book, which would have given me pause. Had I not read The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic and adored them so much, I don't think I would have picked this one up, because I didn't pick it up at first because such a military-centric fantasy is not something that I thought I enjoyed. But I have found that that's not the case anymore this year, so I'm excited to delve into this one. This is one of the heftier books on my TBR, and it is 535 pages. But I'm not picking this up quite yet. I do this afternoon. I've been in a writing phase, which is really good because I'm so far behind on Nanowrimo. I don't even know if I'm going to be tracking my word count in this site anymore because I am depressingly far behind. So I think I'm going to just put on some YouTube videos in the background, write a little bit. There are good days and there are bad days, so this feels like a good day for writing, but we'll see. And then once I'm done with that, I'll probably pick up this guy. I'm really excited about it. So I wasn't originally planning on filming an update today. I was just gonna take Friday off because I, again, was not feeling that great today. But I got some exciting book mail, so I thought I would come on and document it. I have like a cut on my nose, so that's what that is. I don't know where it came from. I also have been breaking out like real bad. Mask acne is a thing, and it's terrible. And my skin has just really not acclimated to wearing a mask, so that's been fun. I've been loving breaking out like a teenager again. That's just awesome. And I've been trying not to wear any like face makeup because that just makes it worse. At least for me it does. So what you see is what you get right now. In terms of reading updates, I did finish The Suicide Motor Club, and let's just say that the only reason that I did finish it was because I was at work and it was the only audiobook that I had already downloaded to my phone, so there was no other option. Otherwise, I would have DNF'd it. I don't recommend. It just wasn't great, and there's just like a lot of problematic things in the book too. There was just like the way that non-white people were written and women were written that were just also a little icky, so that was not fun. But I finished it, so that's another book finished, and that was a disappointment. So you can imagine my excitement when I came home and my July 7th pre-orders came in, and man, July 7th was a good day for pre-orders. I got what essentially are my two aesthetics in two books. Like if I had to pick two current books right now to describe me and to describe my two different aesthetics, it would be these two books. Dark, mysterious, a little bit of red, little fox there, very naturey, very dark. And then on the other hand, we have a very light, very pastel-y sort of cotton candy situation going on here, but there's a snake hidden inside. So I'm gonna pick one of these up. I'm going to try and read it between tonight and then tomorrow because I'd like to end my vlog ideally early tomorrow so that I can get it uploaded in a timely manner for Monday. I was going to pick up Survivor Song, but today is the 10th and this is the group book for the Horror in 24 readathon, which starts the 11th. So I could cheat. I really want to cheat. This looks so exciting, but I'm not gonna cheat on that readathon. It starts the 11th, so I'll be picking this one up next. But I think for my physical book at the moment, I am going to go with Girl Serpent Thorn. And listen, I know I'm in like the middle of Rage of Dragons, but I have been trying really hard this week to only have one audiobook and one physical book at a time, and that's just, I can't function that way. I always have at least 3 or 4 books going on at the same time, which I know sounds crazy, but I can't not pick this up, right? Like, this is one that is very much like a cover buy, but also not like a cover buy. This has bisexual rep in it. I'm so excited about it. So I think I am going to pick that up just because I am highly looking forward to that one. I am liking the Rage of Dragons, but let me tell you, it was such a jump going straight from like Throne of Glass and The Witch graphic novel that were both very light in terms of fantasy and very lighthearted. Going from that to the Rage of Dragons, the prologue is extremely grim, and that's really good. So don't think that it's not. Like I'm picking up a different book, but it's not because that's bad. And my battery is flashing at me, but I'm really enjoying the Rage of Dragons. It's really good so far. I'm only on about like page 50, so I can't give too much in depth, but this is my little update for today. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. And hopefully tomorrow I will be in a better mood. So it's been a little while since I updated you guys. It is Monday the 13th, and yeah, I kind of realized I never ended this vlog, so here I am ending it out. That was my dog. He's over my ish today. But the last time that I checked in with you guys, I was planning on starting Girl Serpent Thorn, and I am 86 pages into it. And I am really loving this one so far. Let me tell you, I was a little nervous because it started out, I thought it was going to be a little bit insta-lovey between two characters, but that is not the way this is going at all, and I hesitate to even talk too much about this one because I think that there's a lot more to it than the synopsis really tells you, and that is a delightful kind of surprise to see. So if you try and pick this one up and you're a little turned off by what seems like insta-love, keep reading. I promise you it's going to be worth it, at least. So in 86 pages, you know, that's not really, for a fantasy, a lot of time to build up characters or to build a world. But somehow, like, this is being built up. Like, I understand the world enough to where I get concepts and I'm looking forward to finding new things out about it. And then the characters, we've really gotten to know Soraya, our main character, a lot. And slight spoilers for this. I think it's really just a spoiler of what this book is about, but if you really like going in pretty much blind, skip ahead until I put this book down. But this seems to almost be potentially like a villain origin story, kind of like the Poppy War kind of feels like a villain origin story. This is kind of giving me those vibes. Definitely not as dark as the Poppy War, but I feel like in this point in the book, Soraya is definitely kind of thinking about her powers and what that means and what she can do with it, and the power and kind of taking power back for herself. But yeah, other than this, I didn't really get a lot of reading done. I have started Special Topics in Calamity Physics by Marisha Pessl for my audiobook. I think I'm about 30 minutes into it, so not far at all. I'm a little bummed because I think this one might have been one that I should have picked up physically, because it sounds like that there were like pictures and photographs and other like media mixed in with it that I might be missing in the audiobook, but I do like the narrator. I think it's a good production, so I'm going to be listening to that later on this week for work. But that is all going to be in next week's reading vlog, so I'm gonna wrap this guy up. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a comment down below, like, subscribe for more content from me. This was a really good start to both the Horror in 24 readathon and also the pop culture readathon as well. I definitely need to step it up a little bit this upcoming week in order to get all the books that I want to read this month read in time. So stick around for that. Next week's reading vlog is definitely going to feature a lot of newer releases and books that I've been very excited about to read for a very long time. So stay tuned for that. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!